What I want to talk about now is the fundamentals of how to build a sales and marketing organization. And really, probably the best analogy I can give you is who I believe to be the best NC2A1 Division One men's basketball coach of all time is John Wooden. And John Wooden won 10 national championships out of the 30 years that he was involved with UCLA. And in one stretch, he won 7 out of the top out of 10 national championships. And the first day that NC2A would allow him to practice, he'd scrimmage the freshmen against upperclassmen. And at the end of the session, he'd send the upperclassmen off, and he'd put all the freshmen up into the stands, and he'd sit down and give them a lecture about the fundamentals of the game of basketball. Were 2 fundamentals: number 1, the layup, and number 2, the free throw. And so he would, it's like Mr. Basketball from New York and Kentucky and Indiana and New York City and LA, and they're sitting there going, what is this old man lost? I don't know how to do a layup and a free throw. So he would say, okay, gentlemen, make 50 layups in a row with your right hand, make 50 layups in a row with your left hand, and make 85 out of 100 free throws. And what I'll do is, after you do that, you can go to the showers. Well, he had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar that played for him. He had Gail Goodrich. I mean, he had the who's who of the NBA Hall of Fame. So he, over all those years, 30 years, never had one player that ever did it. And after about 2 or 3 hours, they're dead tired. He put them back up in the stands and said, look, you can win the game of basketball against 90% of our opponents if we can just execute on the 2 fundamentals, the layup and the free throw. And he would always spend a very high percentage of his practice time, all the way through all those years, practicing layup drills and practicing free throws. And that's one of the reasons that they became a champion. So there's 2 fundamentals to building a sales and marketing organization. The first fundamental is that it's the written list. So wherever you get your written list from, it needs to be a written list. It can be on paper, it can be electronic, it doesn't matter, but you need to make a written list of prospects, okay? And that written list of prospects is critical to you, and it's a dynamic list. It's not make it once, put it in a drawer, and never look at it again. And the other thing that it's not is it is not the Little League roster in one booklet, the church roster in the other booklet, the friends from business in a ACT database and electronically. It is a compiled single database or written list of prospects. And as you go out and meet people, you're going to add people to that list, and as you show the business to people, whether they get in or they decide they're not going to get in, you're going to take people off of that list. So whether you're Bill Clinton or Barack Obama or John McCain or President Bush or Donald Trump, there's only so many people There's a finite number of people you can put on that written list. So by definition, what that means is that if you keep working the written list and you don't come up with a way to add people to that list, you're going to run out of people to talk to in this business. So by example, I've only personally, at this point in my business, personally sponsored 31 people that have built an organization of over 30,000 people. With that said, the reason that happened was if I would have just keep working my written list, the 30,000 people would have never happened, and so the written list is the layup, okay? And we'll talk about the free throw here in a little bit. So if you look at the graphic, your business starts with you. And so the first thing you want to do, and if you just write down on the side next to you, number 1, written list. So that's the first fundamental. So you take that fundamental of the written list, and you're going to begin to call those people. And there's 4 questions we're going to ask them. This is a system. You can go reinvent the wheel, but I'm telling you, this is what works. First question we're going to ask them is, what do you know about energy deregulation in the state of blank? Whether that's Texas, New York, or Illinois, depending on where the prospect is. The typical response is little or nothing, or I know a little bit about this, or I'm kind of familiar with it, but they're not going to give you a whole lot of detail. They're not experts in it by any means, and most people are just going to say, I don't know much about it at all. Why do you ask? And the reason they're going to say, why do you ask, is there's a relatedness between you and them. So let's say you work at the post office together. Whatever that relatedness is, it's not surrounding energy in any way, shape, or form. So they're going to ask you a question, why do you ask, typically, or something along those lines. Then you're going to say, well, it's kind of like this. How many people do you know use electricity or if you're in a gas market in Illinois, or gas, so it's electricity and gas, or just electricity or gas. How many people do you know use electricity in their home or their apartment? Well, that's a rhetorical question. They're going to say everybody. And then you're going to say, would they rather pay less or more if nothing changed for them? That's another rhetorical question. They're going to say they'd rather pay less. And then the last question is, well, if I could show you a way we could make an awful lot of residual income, get paid month after month after month on those electric and gas bills, would it be worth 20 minutes of your time to watch a couple of videos on the internet? So the fourth question is to get a commitment for them to go to the Energy 526 website that you got when you joined as a managing consultant. So that website is www. and then whatever your nickname is, .energy526.com. And if you haven't gone to that website, it's really important that you go to the website, familiarize yourself with the click pattern on that website, and it does change occasionally. So I'm familiar with the click pattern, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give them the website, and you can also go to GoDaddy or Register.com or one of those people that sell URLs and come up with a creative URL and just point it to that website, so you don't have to say www, your nickname, .energy526.com. Figure out what a URL is. You don't have to do that, but just a suggestion. So you're going to send them that website, and the click pattern is, look, the first question it's going to ask you, it's going to have an American flag and a Spanish flag. And you click on the American flag if you want English. The second thing you're going to click on is the shape of the state that you want to watch the video from. So the business presentation is different for Illinois, Texas, and New York. And then the third question it's going to ask you is, it's going to ask you the speed of your internet connection. Even if you have high speed, just click on broadband. If you have dial-up, click on dial-up. And then you click the go button underneath, and it's going to take you to that particular state, and you want them to watch the first two videos. So you want to watch the introduction to energy deregulation. That's about a 6 or 7 minute video. And then the second video is the business presentation. And that business presentation video is about 18, 19 minutes, somewhere in that time frame. So you're asking them to watch about 25 minutes worth of video. At the point, so that's what you're going to say yes. And then at that point they say, well, yeah, I mean, it'd be worth it. Say, you know what, John, there are an awful lot of people making an awful lot of money. Do not collapse the invitation into the business presentation. The business presentation is going to be done by the video. So that's a common mistake that new people make, is they'll take the invitation, and your friend John from work is going to ask you a question. Well, tell me a little bit about it. Well, it kind of works like this, and every customer you get paid so much money, and we sign up all of our customers, blah, 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 and all of a sudden you're starting to give them enough information. One question leads to another, that leads to another, that leads to another, and what happens is that what you want to do is you want to just understand that the invitation is to say as little as possible to get them to watch the videos on the internet. After they watch the videos and so at that point, what you want to do is you want to make sure you make a firm appointment with them. So you're going to say to them, when do you think you can watch it? A lot of times people, they're not excited about the business at all. They don't even know what you're talking about. So you've got to create that urgency. So they may say, today's a Tuesday. They may say, well, I can look at it this weekend. So John, you don't understand. There's people in this business that have been in it 2 years that are making over $100,000 a month. This is a big deal. You need to watch the video today. So you need to tighten that time frame as much as you can, create the urgency, and then after you create that urgency, you want to set a firm appointment. So let's say, okay, well, I can watch it when I get home. Well, what time is that? Around 5. So if I call you at 8 o'clock tonight, you will have already watched it? Yes. Okay, look, I'm going to call you at 8 o'clock tonight. It's really important you watch this. I'm telling you, this is going to be huge for us. So say as little as possible, set the appointment, and then when you call them back, and the first 4 questions, those aren't script questions. Those are, typically those are the questions you want to ask, but you can ask them a little bit different if the way you would ask those questions a little bit different. This one's a script question. John, did you watch the videos? Yes. Did they make sense to you? Did that make sense to you? So did that make sense to you? That is a critical question to ask. Not what do you think or anything like that. The psychology of this question is important. And the question is, did that make sense to you?